Good morning, everybody. Recording this live in Maryland here at 5 a.m. So for some early risers out there, it's going to be posted a little bit later on my YouTube channel. So definitely go check it out. Orioles gear on here. Obviously, coming to you after the Framber Valdez news, signing a contract with the Detroit Tigers, 3-year deal option after 2 years to get out of it for about 46 million a year. So really, really, really massive deal. People were talking about him taking a 1 to 2 year deal. Maybe you know not getting as much money, APV, all that type of stuff, and huge get for Detroit as they put him in for now. Tariq Skubal at the top of that rotation, making it very, very formidable. And we'll all see how long Skubal's a Tiger, and I don't think it's going to be for very long. But we'll see about all that. So um, but obviously, to touch base on how this pertains to the Orioles, anyone who's watched any video on here, myself and our DD, myself and whoever, even just me, Framber's been my guy from the jump, right? I was really never Team Ranger, wouldn't have minded Ranger, but to me it was Framber, and then kind of everybody else down here. So hugely disappointing that the Orioles never really seemed to be interested in him, and you know, have a couple people who have some inside knowledge of the thing. I mean, I'm certainly just a guy in Ocean City who does podcasts, so I don't have, pertinent inside information. But from what this person told me, it seemed like they were never interested in Framber to begin with. Terrible interviews. You had the whole incident of throwing at the catcher, seemed to be a clubhouse cancer, yada, yada, yada. I've always said to me, like, it's about winning games. And, if Colton Cowser, who I love, great guy, you know, the pasture, that whole section. Awesome, hilarious, funny guy. Can't hit a breaking ball to save his life, right? So who really cares how funny you are if you're not producing, right? Framber shows up, he gets you innings, he eats innings, he's successful. Teams have shown, the Astros have shown that they can win with him, right? So you add that into the clubhouse, regardless of the dynamic it brings. If you go 0 for 5 in a game because Framber is mean to you in the locker room, that's something that's on you. Okay. So vibes don't win you World Series. Vibes are great. We all love vibes. I love going out and having good vibes with my boys when we're out, watching baseball, always want to have a good time with good people. Cool. Do that off the field. You know what I mean? Don't invite Framber to your party. Don't, do whatever. Go out and build your Legos and do whatever you need to do. This is about winning games. And he's a guy who would post up at the top of your rotation every fifth day, and you know what you get from him. You get a workhorse, you get an absolute dog who's got great postseason experience, and he would have put this team at the top of the American League, in my opinion. Um, I did bet the Orioles earlier this year at plus 1100 to get to the World Series. Still like them to win the East at plus 450, plus 500, depending on whatever site you're on. But I think Framber would have immediately put that team as um, the team to beat the American League, and you would have gotten much worse odds, but would have had a better team here. So I get the disappointment, I get the frustration. I mean, I'm kind of upset and frustrated, and yeah, I've never been a huge Elias stan, as people like to call it. Like everyone's going to think that, oh, I hate the Ravens and I everything they do I criticize, and I'm giving Elias and the Orioles a pass. Like no, like Elias has made some kind of bonehead moves, right? And he's not above reproach here. And I get that he talks the talk and doesn't always walk the walk, but I feel like too many people are just blindly hating on him and aren't looking at kind of the facts here, right? So let's kind of go over things. People saying this offseason's been a disappointment and he's done nothing to improve the roster. It's like, okay, well, here was your starting rotation last year. Now, obviously, we knew Bradish was hurt, kind of out of the control. So you're penciling Bradish in, but you had Zach Eflin at the top of the rotation. And I like Eflin a lot. He's a 3 or 4. You know what you get with him. Love him in that role. Didn't like him as a 1. Tommy Sugar, great guy. Whatever. Charlie Morton was awful. We saw how awful he was. Dean Kramer, Dean's my guy, but he's a 4 or 5. And then insert whoever, Povich, whoever as the 5th starter. So you mean to tell me, as constructed, and they got nothing from Grayson, by the way, who everyone can't believe that they traded, but they got nothing from him, and they were probably going to get very minimal from him this year. So that was your opening day rotation. So to not save out a rotation of Bradish, Trevor Rogers, also who Elias traded for, who was the best pitcher in the second half of baseball last year. Elias traded for him, so he didn't just come out of thin air. So you have those two at the top. You have Shane Baz or Baz, however you say it, and I do think that that's a potential. I'm not going to base things off of potential and say it's a great offseason, but he's going to give you way more than what Grayson gave you last year, which was nothing. And he's going to give you more than Grayson's giving you this year with the potential to give you a hell of a lot more on top of the rotation stuff. So you can't, with a straight face, say that that's not an upgrade at number three. Him versus Tommy Sugar or Charlie Morton, I'll take Boz all day. And then you slot in Eflin and Kramer at 4 or 5, which are great roles for them. Right now, you know, that is a massive upgrade from the starting rotation last year. You're lying if you say that it's not. Now, obviously, some of that's due to just Bradish coming back, right? But you also have Tyler Wells coming back, who could be a long man, some depth. He could spot start if you need it. You didn't have that really last year. You had it with Big Al, but we all kind of saw what happened with that. So the core five is good, and now when you can have some Povich or Young or Trey Gibson on his way, and Tyler Wells' depth, it's much better than last year. Is it World Series caliber? We'll see. I don't think so, just based on the pitching, but you know, it's a significant upgrade from last year. So anyone again saying that there's not an upgrade from last year, you're just lying and you're pissed at Elias, right? So you gotta give the man credit where it's due. And again, he traded for Trevor Rogers. If Rogers, he's not going to pitch to a 115 ERA or 108 ERA, but if you split the difference from when he first came up to the one something ERA, if he's somewhere in the threes and dealing like he did, like a sub 3.5 ERA, that's ace stuff right there, man. I mean, and you traded Connor Norby and Kyle Stowers for him. Now Stowers has potential to be an all-star, but that's what it takes to get these pitchers, right? You're not going to just trade Kobe Mayo and get an all-star. You're not. So the pitching significantly better on the starting end. So that's an upgrade. Um, the bullpen, now, I've always been a proponent of you can find guys kind of off the scrap heap, and it doesn't mean that you should wait and not try to get some big guns out there, but he's found a Danny Coulomb, he's found a Jacob Webb, he found a Fuji who was at times good. Cano was an all-star until he fell off the face of the earth. But I mean, you found these guys, right? Like they're not, you know, it's not that hard to get the bullpen. I mean, he traded for Dominguez, who just signed a big deal as a closer. You traded guys that no one's heard of for Sir Anthony Dominguez. So the bullpen can be built, and while there's still work to do there's going to be guys that'll be inevitably let go, or you can trade for Jojo Romero that will get your bullpen, from decent or good to very very good. But the bullpen, just alone with the Helsley signing, is a massive upgrade from last year, where you don't have any questions about who you're going to be wondering about, like, well, who's going to come in this game? Oh, so and so pitched yesterday. Do we need to kind of do a closer by committee again? As much as Sir Anthony was my guy, he was a little erratic at times. So you bring Ryan Helsley, you have him on a good enough deal. Is he Edwin Diaz? No, obviously not. Is he Tanner Scott? No, but we saw how much those guys went for. Can he get you 40 saves? Yes. And we didn't have that last year. And the fact that they're not relying on Felix Batista and saying, oh, maybe he'll come back and this and that, blah, blah, blah. That's a massive upgrade from last year. So you have the closer spot, which is very important. You have your starters, which are an upgrade. You can't say that this stuff isn't better than last year. Are you pissed about Framber? Yes, I am too. But this is an upgrade. Now, in comes the lineup, and as much as we all love our boy Ryan O'Hearn, and really happy, one of the best dudes in baseball. His All Star story was awesome last year. Just seeing the emotion that he had for making the All Star game, and the moments that O'Hearn produced, in the run of, the 91 wins and all that type of stuff was phenomenal, and it's stuff that we'll never forget. I mean, the 3-run homer in Toronto, to win that game, stick it to the Blue Jays was freaking awesome. It was great. Um, but that being said, you know, Ryan O'Hearn hitting in the middle of your lineup when you're trying to contend outside of the Pittsburgh Pirates, props to you guys, but it's not what you want, right? So you're replacing him with Pete Alonso. How can you not say that that is an upgrade? That's a massive, massive upgrade. It's nothing to do with O'Hearn as a person. We all love O'Hearn. I'll take him on my team all day, every day, but I'll take him at sixth or seventh in my order. So massive upgrade in the lineup right there. And then I keep saying this: you have a guy who, in Taylor Ward, who was in company of Aaron Judge and Juan Soto for. There's four outfielders last year that hit 30 home runs or more and driven 100 runs or more. It's Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, Riley Green, Taylor Ward. How adding 30 and 100 to your lineup is not an upgrade? You're just high if you're thinking that. You're just, want to just criticize Elias just for the hell of it. So you're adding a 30 and 100 bat, regardless of if it's only for a year. Are we not supposed to upgrade the lineup for a year to try to win the World Series this year? So there's your 4-5 right there. When previously it was a combination of O'Hearn and whoever, that is a massive upgrade. And again, this is no slight on our boy Ryan O'Hearn, but let's be honest, it's a massive upgrade. And then just we should see some rebounds from people who struggled last year and were injured last year. And I don't really like doing the what if game, but law of averages will tell you Jordan Westbrook is going to be better if he's healthy. Gunner's going to be better. I mean, you've seen it, Cowser should be better, although I'm not a huge Cowser guy. Strikes out way too much, but now you can put these people down in the order a little bit more because you have an Alonso and you have a Taylor Ward in there, 3, 4, 4, 5, however you want to put in there. That is a significant, significant upgrade. Okay, and then you allows you to do right, left a lot better because you now have a Taylor Ward as a power bat in there too, right? So massive upgrade from last year, and we saw that we struggle against left-handed pitching, and so again, the lineup's better, the rotation's better, the bullpen's better. Where haven't we upgraded? Now, I've always been a proponent of better is not good enough. It's the same thing with the Ravens, right? They're making the playoffs. That's great. The goal is a Super Bowl, and anything short of that is considered failure. Same thing for the World Series for me, right? Like the window is now to win. I don't care about 2027. I don't care about 2028. I don't care about 2029. I'm not loading up prospects, hoarding them, doing whatever, right? Like it's now. Okay. Now and next year, whatever with this young core. So, that's kind of the frustrating part. I mean, obviously Framber can get you there, get you over the hump this year, but to act like this team, if you compare the lineups to the Yankees, compare the starting rotations in there, where don't the Orioles stack up well with the rest of the division to kind of win the division, right? Okay, Crochet and Ranger and Sonny Gray at the top. All right. I mean, I was never a Ranger guy, so I think a Bradish, Rogers, Baz is certainly Crochet's heads and shoulders above, but I think the Orioles have a little bit more depth there. Lineup, I mean, outside of Judge, Trent Grisham's not hitting 30 home runs again or 35 home runs again. Ben Rice is good. Stanton will be hurt, but I'll take the Orioles lineup over that, right? So now obviously they're getting Garrett Cole back, so then Cole and Fried at the top of that is, a great 1-2 punch. So we'll see if you add Zach Gallen in here. Bad year last year, but was pretty consistent the rest of his career. It adds even more depth and length to the rotation. I think this is a team that can still win the American League East, and that's not just me saying that, because I want them to. I can criticize this team when they're not playing well, and last year they were awful, right? And last year it was too much relying on the vibes and like, oh, our young core and these guys are going to rebound, and Adley's a good dude, but he's hurt and he's not producing. Enough of that, right? So it's like sit back, relax, bang your head against the wall after losing Framber. You could criticize Elias for talking the talk and not walking the walk there, and I get that. And again, Framber's been my guy the whole time, but let's not ignore that there were some red flags on him, which I was willing to ignore. It's not my money, right? I'm not spending $151 million on him. right? Like it's not my money or however whatever the deal was. But at the same time, you know, you gotta do what you gotta do to get the World Series. It also takes two to tango, which people don't realize. Like every free agent projection I see for the Ravens, it's oh he's a Raven, he's a Raven. What if they don't want to come here? What if they don't want to take a discount to come here, right? What if you're offering them the same amount of money and they choose something else, a la Ranger with Boston, right? Like we had that deal on the table months ago or weeks before Boston. He didn't sign here. So are you supposed to just keep up and up and up in your offer? I mean, yes, you can to an extent, but there's a limit for every single player, and especially in the pitching market, right? Like, I mean, you see the Tigers spend that money for Framber, but the gap between them and Tariq Skubal, who's the best pitcher in baseball, is like this. So you see pitchers' arms fall off all the time, and while Framber is my guy, and I think he's very, very reliable. He's 32. You couldn't really give him 6 or 7 years. You couldn't give Ranger 6 or 7 years, especially with his velocity falling down. So, what are you going to do? You're just going to eat it at the end of the contract, right? Now, again, 2029, 2030, whatever. That doesn't matter if you don't win this year. So I get that point. I see both sides. So I have a good buddy who I really like on X. We're kind of going back and forth at 5 in the morning talking about baseball, and he said, "Oh, if there's no more move made, Elias needs to go before spring training, like before the season even starts. Like, are you kidding me?" And love the dude, good friend of mine, but like that's absurd to let him go before spring training. Baseball is a lot different game than football, right? There's a 162 game grind. There's so many things that need to be done, right? There's so many more matchups, like this and that. You can have an 0 for 5, come back the next day, and it's how you build your team, how you build your farm system. You need things that you don't need in football to get in there. So whatever you think of Mike Elias, this team won 101 games a couple years ago or 3 years ago, and then 91 games 2 years ago. And then last year they sucked, right? Now, I don't want to rest on, oh, we were good 2 or 3 years ago, but we were good 2 or 3 years ago. I mean, 101, 192 wins in 2 years. How many teams do that? The Dodgers didn't win 100 games last year. So the ultimate goal is the World Series, and this team fell short those 2 years, and I get that. And they looked awful doing it. 2023, 2024, like didn't score a run really in the playoffs at all. I mean, it was awful. I get that, but the pitching wasn't the problem. The pitching was not the problem, and you have Kyle Bradish coming in, and he was a dog. In those games. So we'll see. I'm willing to go into the season with the moves that we made, and you can't say that they didn't upgrade. You can't say that. You can be pissed about Framber, but you can't acknowledge that Pete Alonso is a significant upgrade from Ryan O'Hearn. Taylor Ward's a significant upgrade from whoever you had hitting fourth or fifth. Grayson was going to give you absolutely nothing. You flipped him for a 30 home run, 100 RBI bat, who, if he's in a contract year this year and plays his ass off, cool. Maybe he hits 40. Awesome. And then just the health and improvement of Westy, Gunner, our boy Sammy, hopefully Adley kind of rebounds in there. And, Tyler O'Neill, regardless of what you think of him, he shows that if he plays 100 games, he hits 25 to 30 home runs. Now, let's have him play 100 games, right? But he's not going to play 45 again. Like he's played 90, 100 in 3 years, right? And he's been in the league for like 5 years. So you got to think he's going to give you 70 to 90. If he gets 90, there's 20 plus home runs. That's great for a six hitter, right? So, I mean, you added 100 home runs into this lineup like that. And that's a significant upgrade. And whatever we think of the pitching, it's okay to slug your way to some wins too. Okay. So we'll be fine. I know fine isn't good enough. I get that. And I don't want to settle for fine, right? I don't want to just be, let's wait and see. But there's also a trade deadline in July. So this isn't the end of it, right? This isn't like, oh, you can't go out and acquire other people at the trade deadline. And, if players are raking, and Mayo's crushing it and you haven't traded him yet, boom, there you go. You could go out and get the piece that you need. So let's not jump off, the Bromo Seltzer Tower or, any high building in Baltimore or anything like that. Let's just relax. You can criticize Elias. I'm fine with that. But if you're trying to be reputable and any sort of, legitimate fan, you can't say that this team hasn't upgraded from last year based on just the current moves. You can't say that because it's inaccurate. And you got to credit Elias a little bit for that, right? Like where the criticisms due, the credit is due as well. And yeah, the verdict's out on Shane Baz. I think he's going to be way better than people give him credit for. I don't think slotting him in the four is the performance that you're going to get from him. Look at his home and road splits from last year, and this is an if. And again, I know we don't play ifs, ands and buts, whatever. Look at his home and road splits. He was awful in the bandbox that was Tampa. Look at his stuff. Look what he has to offer, what he brings to the table. Take him out of that bandbox in Tampa, put him at most of his half of his starts in Camden Yards. I think you'll see that ERA go way down. I think and I mean, we already know he's a good strikeout guy. So imagine if he pitches up to, one or two level. And I mean, you traded guys who might not even see the major leagues for him, and you got nothing from Grayson last year, and he'll probably be better than Grayson is going to be for the Angels. And you added Taylor Ward in there, so just give it some time, relax. It's a 162 game season. The Orioles will be better than last year. I will be betting their over win total, which I think right now, depending on if you're on, get on FanDuel because it's lower. I believe 84 and a half. One side is 85 and a half. Obviously, take the 84 and a half. I think they presently constructed an 88 to 89 win team, which will be good enough to get you in the playoffs. And, hopefully they can augment the roster a little bit from there. But Framber, you're my guy. I hope every time we face you in Detroit, we kill you. And we actually have. Like, we've been good against him his career, which is very, very weird. But hey, at least he didn't go to the Red Sox or, the Blue Jays or whoever. So we'll see. I still like the Orioles' chances. And they have made significant upgrades. So let's stop acting like we're the White Sox from 2 years ago. And yeah, hopefully there's another move coming. But missing out on Framber sucks. Not the end of the world. I think we'll be seeing some playoff baseball in Baltimore. Have a good day.